Hi, I'm Justine. I was Daniel's sister. Daniel was a very unique person, and everyone that met him knew that he was one of a kind. And I can easily say that I'll never meet someone like him again. And he was so passionate about everything he did and everything he learned. If there was something that he wanted to know, he would pick up and he would learn it by himself, and then he would be so enthusiastic to teach anyone that wanted to learn about it. And that's what I'll remember most about him. My brother existed a lot in his head and often had trouble making sense, I think, of what was going on in his head, which we all kind of knew was severe mental illness, and he also knew that as well, but sometimes had a really hard time admitting it to himself and others around him. And substance use was a way, I think, for him to escape what was in his head and what was going on in his head, and all the complexities within his head. And if I can use one thing to describe it, it would be I would never know how hard daily life was for him, and I'll never be able to understand that. And that alone allows me to empathize with what he dealt with every day. Every day was really, really, really hard for him. Me and Daniel are and were very different, like a lot of siblings are. But a lot of the time, Daniel was so passionate about so many things. It would be difficult to connect with him, but that passion shouldn't be mistaken for him not caring, and he would always care. He cared so much. And anything that he could solve, he wanted to solve for the ones that he cared about, whether that was with teaching, learning. He would always try to help me, and if I asked for his help, he would be helping me for the next 6 hours. But that was him, because he just wanted to solve things for other people and help them. Even if he didn't know how, he would learn how to help others.
Hi, my name is Scott, and I'm Daniel's father.
I'm Andrea. I'm Daniel's mom. The word I would use from the top of my head is curious. Daniel was curious about everything around him. He had to know how things worked, and until he was satisfied, he kept going. It started from a young age. I remember many visits to the Home Depot, and he had to visit all of the toilets and figure out how they flushed. And then there were many things after that. But that's one fond memory I have from when he was quite young.
When he was a young boy, Daniel and I would work on different projects. He loved to learn about computers, and we would build computers together, and I would work with him on many electronics projects. He wanted to learn the tools, how to use them, how to solder. He just loved to use those tools for things that he could build on his own, and he continued that well into his adolescence and even recently.
So as a young child, Daniel was quite sensitive. He felt things very keenly and very deeply. And as he grew, as he came into adolescence, it really started exhibiting in stronger ways. He stopped going to school. He was later diagnosed with severe social anxiety and depression, and he, unbeknownst to us, initially started to self-medicate. But I guess really it started off with his own phobias, his own fears, and trying to look after himself in that way, not reaching out to anybody. Initially, it was very difficult for him. I think he felt that he could handle it on his own, in his own way. So that was really how it started.
Daniel's battle with addiction began when he started using over-the-counter medications, I think, to cope with his extreme social anxiety and depression. And his dependency turned into addiction. And then he started on the road with a long journey with addiction to opioids and benzodiazepines. Because of that addiction and because of several overdoses that he had experienced, his doctor recommended that we take him to a rehab facility, which was in the US. And he attended that upon coming back, and then after having several relapses, he had spent time in hospitals, mental health facilities, and recovery places. So Daniel first encountered Breakaway when he was referred by his addictions doctor, and it was at Breakaway that Daniel met Stephen, his case manager. Stephen and him started a relationship that was to last for about 3 years. Stephen and him had a really positive and trust-filled relationship in which Daniel could talk to Stephen about any issues or problems that he was having. Stephen would help him with sort of some of the practical issues that he had in his life, wherever he needed help, and eventually that grew into a real trusted relationship where Daniel could talk to him about whatever he needed to. Daniel also worked with Tim and others here at Breakaway, and he would whether he would visit them or spend time talking about anything that he needed to talk to them about, and they built relationships with him as well.
I first met Daniel in 2017 after he'd already been accessing programs at Breakaway since about 2015. Daniel was a very caring person. I think the things that you stand out right from the get-go is his level of compassion, empathy, and just his curiosity in the world. That even transcends the therapeutic relationship in the sense of he was always asking questions about you as a person, wanting to know about you as a person when you were trying to give your time to him. I'd say my relationship with Daniel changed over the course of our 3 years working together. It evolved as he surmounted some of his life's obstacles, or if not necessarily surmounted, struggled through the challenges that he continually faced in his life.
So I first met Daniel in 2018 when Stephen suggested that he check out some groups that I offer through my program P2P. It took a lot of encouragement and persistence on Stephen's part because Daniel was a little hesitant to get involved with a new program. But ultimately he started coming to our groups and to our workshops, and eventually became a hugely valued member of that community. During that time, I also started to meet with Daniel individually, and we worked together pretty intensively over about a year and a half. Daniel as a person was absolutely lovely. He had a really infectious energy. Like when he was excited, you sensed that excitement. And when he was sad or depressed, you could kind of sense that viscerally from him as well. Working with Daniel was a lot of fun, largely because that work was so varied. Like when Daniel would come in and sit down with you. You didn't necessarily know if you were going to kind of dig into something super deep with him, or if he was going to want to like draw molecules and explain chemistry, or like update the security settings on my computer. Like he just kind of showed up in whatever way he showed up, and it was always really nice to kind of meet him in that place.
Education had always been at the forefront for Daniel in our working time together, taking a backseat at certain times, but it always was something that he was very motivated and intent to follow through on. So one of the big things in the course of our work together was dealing with his own struggles around each year he gets a little older. But even in his age 26 year, he finally was successful in applying for university and getting accepted into Ryerson.
Why a scholarship fund? Because we believe in the depths of our heart. It was Daniel's heart's desire to return to school. He applied to university every year for 5 years. He was accepted every year for 5 years, but was not able to fulfill his desire. His mental health issues, his addiction were in the way. So we would be honored if somebody would use this fund to return to school, whether it's university, college, to learn a skill, a trade, anything that would better themselves, to better their lives. That was Daniel's desire. He wanted to better himself. He wanted to move his life forward. Tragically, he was not able to. It would give our family great joy to see somebody benefit from that.
I think education funds help remove barriers for individuals, especially an education fund of this nature, which isn't tied to necessarily the same things that a scholarship fund would be if you're accessing it through the Ontario government. I think one of the main benefits is we can start to eliminate the barriers at the beginning, whether it be application costs or school preparation costs or textbooks, whatever the individual may need to feel that they are ready for the next step in terms of accessing education. That's really what the scholarship is designed to address.
I think first and foremost, the freedom to make a choice. My understanding and watching Daniel struggle financially as well is that often choices are not to be had. So if this can give somebody a choice to return to school, if they can fulfill a dream or a goal that they have set, then we feel this would mean so much to Daniel, especially in honor of his love of learning.